from your guys' perspective that we've seen this acceleration of the ego and it becomes so prominent to now, people are making judgments based on what their fake friends or people they don't even know are saying when, that has always been the case, but I think it's more accelerated now. Is it strictly social media?
It's this augmented reality we all live in and engage with.
Right.
Like we base our validation off of likes and retweets and stuff like that, and thirst trapping is a concept.
It's not a concept. It's a reality.
Definitely a reality.
And it's like, why do you need to do that in order to feel like you're worth? Why do you need to have so many followers to feel like you're popping? Obviously, you can monetize that, and that's a job now for people.
Right.
But there is a line at which you cross when you're gaining empty validation. You know what I'm saying? And it's like a drug, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Like you get get the likes up, and it gets your dopamine going, and then you go back, and if you don't get the same amount of likes, it's like you're like, what's going on? There's this cognitive dissonance that people are experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've never drank or done any drugs, but everybody always tells me you can never get that high like you did the first time, and it seems like that's the same thing that people are chasing now because you get it, it's that euphoria, but then it's that emptiness that comes afterwards, and that's what I think a lot of people get trapped in the other ways. So how do you guys, I know you guys addressed this too on the project on Wet, but how do you find that this has impacted your relationships with women or, when you're trying to get with girls or whatever?
I mean, a lot. Like, you literally see people lose their mind. I mean, you see a lot of people struggle with the idea of like, oh, she didn't like my picture, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's like a real thing of like what goes on in your mind when like, like a girl might crop you out of a picture. Never me, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like it happens to some people, right. and then they're like, they start to immediately read like, well, what's wrong with me? It's like, well, she did this because, or why didn't she respond fast enough? Like I texted her and she didn't hit me back, or you know what I mean? All those kinds of things. Because there's so many different ways to reach people now that you are almost looking at it as like, yo, there's no excuse as to why you didn't hit me back other than the fact that you don't like me. Back in the day, if you didn't call me, it was like, okay, well, she might not have been by the phone or she might not have got to the answer. Now it's like email, texting, Instagram, DMs of all sorts.
I was about to say DM of every caliber.
You know what I'm saying? So like it's really like now you're in your head even more when things might not go your way. And then your ego talks to you more often than not. Like you start assuming why somebody didn't react in the way that you wanted them to act. And then that's how you get in that, like, that's why at the end of airplane mode, you hear like this inner monologue. She doesn't like you. She thinks you're corny, thinks you're weird. She hates your SoundCloud. She crops you out of the pictures that you take together. She thinks you're old McDonald's fries. You're Boof. You're Reggie. You know what? You should probably fuck her best friend. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you tell yourself all of these negative things, and I feel like it's definitely a direct result of reading very deep into things as a result of the lack of engagement that you might get on social media platforms and stuff.
And then given that ironically now, or not ironically, but I guess a direct result of all that is for artists of this era, that's more how you're going to get popular and be successful, so you can tour, so you can sell merch, so people will download and buy your music. So how do you exist in that reality of knowing all this negative baggage that comes with the reality of what we're dealing with social media, but then having to use it to get your word out? How do you navigate that?
That's a good question.
It's just knowing that it exists. Like, the elephant in the room, talking about it on an album, like what I think is just more like, once you kind of put it out there and talk about it, then you can deal with it. You know what I'm saying? But if you pretend like it never exists, then it'll always kind of, but like if you can have a conversation and look at like yourself, like if you know yourself, you're good anywhere. You can navigate anywhere. You can be in it, but not of it. You know what I'm saying? If you know who you are.
You can turn your notifications off.
Straight up.
So I feel like so many times we just get in tings and bings on our phone over and over again, and it becomes this point where you just become addicted again to these notifications of empty information. So now we're just following, Twitter feeds and following, looking at Instagram, just scrolling down, looking at all this content, which isn't necessarily giving you any inherent value or necessarily like propelling you forward towards the person you want to be, but it's just something that's just a distraction. So like turning off your notifications is like, I guess, a simple way to begin, like, and only using social media when you need to use it.
Right. Okay. And then how do you, the way that you guys are going and address this on Wet and elsewhere, how do you feel that's shaping what you're going to be doing next?
As far as navigating, like...
Well, musically and career-wise and personally, because clearly the difference is a lot of people, I think they'll see something and think about it, but it seems like you guys are more proactive to actually make changes or to at least discuss it in your music or at least address it. Whereas I think a lot of people, they'll just look at the raw emotion of it instead of the practical, what's actually happening of it.
Right.
So how do you kind of intellectualize what's happening and then make these moves moving forward to better the situation?
Well, I think what's great about our music is that it allows us to have conversations like these.
Okay.
So whenever we're in a forum, like in an interview or just out about and meeting fans, these conversations come up in certain aspects and allows us to talk about it over and over again. And we're connecting with people through that process and also engaging with what we're dealing with ourselves because we're still growing with it. We didn't make this album to appear like we're not going through it or like we're above it or...
No, it's clear you guys are like dealing with you're in it and trying to, swim through it as opposed to drown. So.
And it's also kind of like meeting it head on allows us to be unapologetic in our growth. Because a lot of people are afraid to fuck up publicly.
Right. You
know what I'm saying? Everybody got to have that perfect picture. You got to, you know what I'm saying? You got to have everything so perfect. So you're kind of like, messaging to the people who follow you that you got it all together. You know what I'm saying? So I think with us, it's like we're kind of showing a lot of this inner, like, yo, we fucked up too. We working on it too. We're not perfect. So it allows us to not only take chances in the content that we talk about, but in the music, the kind of music we create. Like I play guitar, we produce, we're getting into different kind of sonics and sounds. And I think it's a direct result of just kind of, taking it, really focusing on what it is that we're trying to prove, which is just trying to learn publicly, openly. Because I think that's a real big part of hip hop too is, if you don't got it right off the bat, boo! You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of that. It's a lot of, you can't, don't half step. You know what I'm saying? And I understand it, obviously, because we come from it. It makes the skin tough, but it's definitely, it is a discouraging thing for a lot of people when to get laughed at and the ego immediately kicks in and then you never do it again. You know what I'm saying? So then you become like a slave to other people's perceptions. So then you never grow. So.
Yep, you're in a perpetual purgatory.
Right.
All right, y'all. Well, appreciate you guys coming through today. I'm Soren Baker on Unique Access. Make sure you pick up the Wet Project if you haven't already.
Yes,
Go get
indeed.
that. TiRonAyomari.net.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national
gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.